What is going on, Pats Nation? You guys already know who it is. Patriots Global here, back with another video. And in this one, we're going to be talking about how the Patriots have re-signed two of their players today on the tampering period right before the official start of free agency. I know a lot of people are freaking out. Of course, this is the time where teams are reaching out to big-time free agents, are signing the best of the best, the big-time free agents that are available this offseason, and the Patriots aren't doing anything, and they're kind of just here re-signing their own players. But again, guys, if you are a part of the channel, if you guys have even watched the last couple of videos, you would know that I told you this is exactly what you should expect. Last offseason was not something that is regular for this Patriots team and Bill Belichick. What usually happens is on the first day of free agency, first official day of free agency, and for the legal tampering period, what New England usually does, instead of signing these free agents, they usually look at their own players, and that's when they re-sign within house. So in this one, we're going to be talking about the team re-signing quarterback Brian Hoyer and special teams ace Matthew Slater. I do want to start here with Brian Hoyer, which is obviously the bigger, I would say, impact of the two. Now, Brian Hoyer is being signed to a 2-year deal. This is not just a 1-year contract, which is usually what the Patriots do with Brian Hoyer. A lot of times we're, looking at Brian Hoyer coming in and out of the organization, being signed to 1-year contracts. Every year looking, the Patriots are going to bring back Brian Hoyer or not. This time, they're signing him to a multi-year contract that is worth up to $14 million, but includes $3 million guaranteed with incentives. Now, obviously, this is not one of those things where Brian Hoyer is going to be competing for a job. Your starter's Mac Jones. Brian Hoyer, if anything, is going to be competing for the backup spot, but Brian Hoyer is not going to be cut. Brian Hoyer is not going to be cut this offseason, and he's not going to be cut next offseason either. Brian Hoyer is actually a pivotal role to this offense and a pivotal role to Mac Jones, and that is why he's being re-signed. He's not being re-signed from a player perspective, but from a mentoring perspective. Now, if Josh McDaniels was here, then I think we'd be talking about should the Patriots re-sign Brian Hoyer or not, and if they do, I don't expect it to be a multi-year contract, but because the offensive coordinator you had in Josh McDaniels is officially gone as a head coach for the Raiders, you need some stability for Mac Jones, who doesn't have an offensive coordinator. He really doesn't have anybody to go to, doesn't have a true good quarterbacks coach to go to, nor does he have an offensive coordinator, as the offensive duties are being taken to Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Mac is going to need a guy at all times to be able to help mentor him. If Mac Jones has a question while he's in training camp, while he's in OTAs, while he's in mini camp, while he's in the preseason, or while he's even in season on the sidelines waiting for the offense to get back on the field, and he has a question, he needs a guy to be able to go to answer that, and the veteran quarterback that Brian Hoyer is now gives Mac Jones that guy to go to. At the end of the day, would you rather have Mac Jones going to somebody like Brian Hoyer, or would you have Mac Jones going to, Matt Patricia or Joe Judge? As a player, Brian Hoyer is not great anymore. Brian Hoyer is not going to bring much, like I mentioned earlier, as a player, but when it comes to a coaching or a mentoring role, he is going to bring elite ability in that category. Let's remember that a couple of seasons ago, when the Patriots won Super Bowl 53 against the Rams, Brian Hoyer was highly praised for that win, not because he did anything on the field, but because of what he was able to do from a scouting and mentoring perspective. So essentially, what Brian Hoyer is being signed for is essentially a high-end quarterbacks coach for the Patriots. That essentially is what Brian Hoyer is going to do, except he's also going to be a scout team quarterback. He's also obviously going to still take some reps. He's not an actual official coach, but when you actually look into the situation, that's essentially what he is. And I think that brings a question for a lot of Pats fans is, okay, well, why don't the Patriots just make him a quarterbacks coach, or make him the offensive coordinator, or just make him a part of this coaching staff? You save a roster spot and you're going to save money against the cap. And the problem with that is that, one, Brian Hoyer is not ready to retire yet, and two, when he does retire, and if he wants to become a coach in the NFL, he will be making significantly less. Whether he's an offensive coordinator or a positional coach, he will be making significantly less money as a coach in the NFL than if he was a player in the NFL. Not to mention the fact that as a coach in the NFL, you are having to put in a lot more hours than if you are just signed as a player. I love this move. I love that this is also a multi-year contract. Again, giving Max some stability. These rookie years for him, the first few years of his development, are going to be absolutely crucial for the quarterback that Mac ends up becoming. And I have had a lot of concern this offseason with what the future is going to look like for the young quarterback because of all of this offensive coaching staff leaving, including Josh McDaniels, but now having Brian Hoyer back does help ease that pain a little bit. Now, obviously, the other part to this is the Patriots going ahead and re-signing special teams ace Matthew Slater, which I think a lot of us expected. Again, two players you absolutely knew were going to come back if they didn't retire was Devin McCourty and Matthew Slater. Now, this deal for Matthew Slater is going to be just a one-year deal worth $2.62 million, and that's going to be fully guaranteed, which I like the contract, It's a very, very low contract. It's going to be easy against the cap, and for what Matthew Slater is going to bring, that is a very nice number, and I think, obviously, the Patriots are getting a bargain deal yet again for Matthew Slater. If he really wanted to go somewhere else and make money, he easily could. Now, I will compare this deal to the Devin McCourty deal, not in terms of money, but in terms of what the amount of years is looking like. Both Matthew Slater and Devin McCourty, both free agents, both just signing a one-year contract. Both of these guys for several years, the last couple of times that they've had to hit free agency and be in contract negotiations, have been thinking about retirement. And when you're thinking about retirement for several years, it's going to get to a point where you're going to be ready to retire. So I think at this point in Matthew Slater's career, and even in Devin McCourty's career, they're going to be taking it 1 year at a time, just signing one-year contracts so they know and can evaluate in the offseason, hey, I want to play football next season, or hey, I'm done playing football and I'm going to retire. But we at least know for the 2022 season, Matthew Slater will be returning for a very, very minimal number against the cap. And Slater is another one of those guys that is going to be absolutely crucial to this team in 2022, not just for what he's going to bring from a special teams level, but for what he is going to bring off the field, for what he's going to bring in the locker room. Guys like Devin McCourty and Matthew Slater returning are absolutely crucial for how the entirety of this team from a mental standpoint is going to operate in the offseason and the regular season and potential postseason. With a lot of personnel leaving, whether that's J.C. Jackson, Dante Hightower looking like he's potentially going to be leaving, Josh McDaniels leaving, the Patriots are really going to need leadership. And when you think of leadership, the top three guys, I would say, would be Devin McCourty, would be Matthew Slater, and would be Dante Hightower. And they're at least bringing two of those guys back for sure. But that is going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on the re-signings of these two players? Let me know in the comment section below. Remember to leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the channel for all of your New England Patriots news. We'll have you covered for everything. But like always, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and go Pats.